last book of the year, because the year's almost over, which is kind of crazy to think about. We have like what, a month? I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. I wrote the word 2024. I wrote the number 2024 for the first time last week, and I had to go take a walk. I had to go outside and take a lap around the neighborhood. I was like, I cannot believe I'm already writing about 2024. Like, I'm still in March.
That's all right. Today I wrote down my birthday and year for today's date. This is crap.
Yeah. Yeah. It's only downhill from here. It's only getting worse. So thank you for joining us. Before we get started, I do want to go ahead and thank Indiana Science Group for helping make this possible. I want to thank Indiana Humanities, who've been wonderful partners with us this season, and our public libraries for being as important as they are for us and for our communities. Support your public libraries. And with that, I want to go ahead and get our November book, Grunt. You've been with us before. We've read a couple of Mary Rose books. We've loved them. She's such a fun, wonderful author. And I think the last book we read of hers was Fuzz. And so we were learning about animals. It's comedic. It's funny. We go into this book, Grunt, and you're like, okay, it's about military science. We're going to go into ballistics, right? No, it's kind of everything but what you would actually associate with the military and all of the science and R&D that goes into that. And so for our expert this month, we have a friend of mine, Matt Sampson. And go ahead and introduce yourself and your background and how it relates to this book.
Sure. My name is Matt Sampson. I am currently a sergeant first class in the Indiana Army National Guard. Prior to that, I was a Marine. I am a Marine. I'm always a Marine.
I was going to say.
But prior to that, I was still in the Marine Corps as an artillery corps observer. So the ballistic things you said this book's not about. That was a wake-up call when I wrote it. Well, there goes everything I do. So, but I've been doing shooting artillery for this will be my 21st year. So my military career is on up to drink here.
Yeah. Hey, cheers to that.
I guess. I'm that old. I feel like I'm old.
Good.
But through I've been 4 combat deployments.
4?
4.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. Iraq, Afghanistan. I did Afghanistan for a year. That was my last one. So I got the motorcycle that I wrecked Wednesday. It's fine. We'll fix it.
Are you fine?
Yeah, made my deal a little bit. Oh, hey, Israel. He's probably just finding out. And then
this is recorded.
You'll find out later.
Hi, Mom.
Oh crap! We'll find out. Let's see, where was that? So yeah, 4 combat deployments. Iraq, Afghanistan. Actually went to Jordan. I've been around the world twice, been to 19 different countries.
Wow.
The last country I went to outside of the United States was Japan, and I served as a liaison to the Japanese, knowing no Japanese.
Helpful.
I've never been to Japan before. That was interesting. So they had an interpreter for me.
Oh, that helps.
But definitely a different dynamic considering World War II. We can't train with them like we would train with the others, like they would develop with us, and then we would give them orders. It's against their constitution to take orders from American military.
And that was written in after World War II?
Yeah.
So how do you train?
Oh, we trained parallel.
Oh.
So it was really weird. But it was also, we want American military orders to shoot here. Okay, that's fine. How many do you want? Oh, 21 rounds. Gee, that's a straight round target, man. Like, we're not going to do that. But I want that. Yeah, I'm going to tell you no.
Alter interpret.
I'm going to tell you no. He broke, this one's broken English. But I want that. This is 2 days.
I didn't realize your service was that expensive. Sorry. well, I've only met you maybe twice. I'll give you that.
We're friends, but like,
Yeah,
mainly for your husband, but,
that's fair.
you know, I get to see you when he brings you around.
Which is for service projects. So it's
Yeah.
usually a good thing.
And we were usually working, so we don't really.
Also, you talked about your experience, and thank you for introducing us to your experience and your background. I'm curious if you said, oh, well, this book has nothing to do with my experience, but I wanted to ask you if any parts of this book made you reflect on your experiences, if any in particular stood out to you.
The whole book, you don't, when you're, just like if you're in your office, right? Any occupation, you don't realize how much other people have an impact outside of what you do.
Yeah.
So if you're a carpenter, right, you probably don't really think about the woodcutter very much. You just need the wood.
Yeah.
So, or the guy at Home Depot that sold it to you, or all the support structure that goes around just your ink pen. Just your ink pen has so much science behind it that it's overwhelming, right? So, we had to have certain pens that work certain ways. Particularly for my math, I am very particular on what a set or map marker. It's got to be a certain tip. I'm very picky about it because if I'm off on my targeting, I hurt somebody that doesn't need to be hurt. I could not save the Marine or the soldier or whoever I'm trying to help. I could end up hurting myself. There's legal ramifications. All this over the one of the pen. So it goes into, there's a poem, and I'm not going to recite it because I'm butchering it, but the nail. One of the nail issue was lost, and it goes on and on. All for the one of the nail. It's that little bitty thing. So one of the things that stood up in the book was how they were going over the uniforms. The Army has changed uniforms twice since I've been in it, and I've only been in the Army for like 6 years. Marine Corps had the same uniforms I've been in. I wonder which one I like. So, yeah. Well, once but it's transitioned twice since I've been in the military.
That's crazy.
Right, and that's really kind of a short time. The time before that, the ones everybody notices, the tricolor.
Yeah.
It's been around since the 80s, and then the Army can't seem to get a color they want. But every time they change a color, every time they change it, they send reference in the book. They have to test it against fire suppression. That actually came up in one of my deployments. So, Under Armour shirts. You always have ever worn or owned an Under Armour?
I am.
They're comfortable, right? They're also very, very comfortable in the desert where it's hot, but they're also very dangerous if you're in a fireball situation. It will really seal your skin shut, and they can't skin graft to it. So it makes your, and Zach was asking about this earlier, it really molds to your body, and they can't repair you. So they started outlawing the most comfortable shirt known to man. We still wore it anyway.
A little late now.
Under Armour actually went and fixed it on their own, but that millions of dollars. The Army wanted to change the uniform again, which the uniform they have now actually blends into stuff. The one before that did not blend into anything, but that's true story. There's a picture. You can't. It has to blend. They wanted to denote the organization you belong to. And it helps identify you if something happens. All that else goes down to how does it identify you. The British have a different uniform than we do. Canadians and all that. If something happens, we're going to see who we are. And it's part of the Geneva Convention. So it all has to go into a certain aspect just for a shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine what our rounds have to go through.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's probably never
the medicine, the battlefield amputations and all that stuff started it started way long ago, but like battlefield medicine as we have begun to know it started in the Civil War.
Which if you were with us in October, you learned a little bit about that during our Mother's Marvel stuff. We learned a little bit about Civil War medicine, Civil War implementations, battlefield medicine, all of that.
This was their antiseptic.
Yeah. I mean, I know, and we talked about that last month too. I mean, the progress that's been made. I mean, yeah, going from that and all right, here's a leather strap and sawing your leg off to at least we got something.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and when they even, she talks, the one number that's really stood out to me in this book was the 22 pages of regulations for buttons.
Yeah.
Forget the whole uniform, just the U.S. Army, just the buttons.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, she goes on to justify, well,
It can't, no, it can't. It has to be durable enough to go through what we're doing. It can't become secondary shrapnel, or as I call it, fragmentation, which is the word for it. Shrapnel is
I didn't realize they were two different things.
shrapnel is placed intentionally inside a rack.
Okay, yeah,
Fragmentation is the casing of the rack.
yeah,
We do not use shrapnel. Okay, we used to. We don't use it anymore. It's inserted inside the round to cause more anti-personnel damage. We use the fragmentation plan. And the kind of working test, we just ram it full of explosion and go. But the shrapnel itself is loaded. So there's different types of shrapnel. It can be ball shrapnel. Flechette is a barbed type of, I mean, these things are gnarly.
yeah.
But shrapnel is planned. Fragmentation, you don't know necessarily how it'll break up, but we know it will, and it's different.
I didn't know there was a difference. But yeah.
That's an artillery towards me thing. That's what I heard.
Well, so, you mentioned all of the R&D and all the science that goes into something before it even gets to your hands, like actually on, using it. And we hear from, in one of the chapters, between 7 and 9, I can't remember. We hear from Josh, and he's one of the Army, I think he was an Army Ranger going through the research, and his mom was a researcher, and he's complaining, oh, God, every week it's something new. You're telling me to carry something else, can't wear this, change this, add this. And obviously he has a very intimate understanding of the research process, why it's important, that it is so important, but it's so frustrating. And I wanted to ask if you related to that sentiment at all.
So,
I figured.
we have in artillery, first off, the first computer that we know in the modern sense is an artillery computer. There's DARPA labs in New York that would configure ballistics for artillery rounds in World War II. Okay, just make our gunnery a lot quicker. We still do charts and darts. We still know how to look at a map, draw this up, use this thing we call the trajectory, the quadrant and trajectory protractor. We call it the Klingon war axe because that's what it looks like. I'm not an FDC guy. I'm probably even calling the wrong name. Some FDC guys go, no, I don't compare. This makes it where you don't hit me. It's great. So they still do that as a redundancy, but we have computers that read it. I have a computer that is supposed to be able to be used as I'm on a patrol with the infantry, and it's supposed to be. I was showed this in Afghanistan. I was promised this. I've not yet seen it. This big. It makes sense, right? All I'm doing is making a phone call or a text message, say, shoot here. All right, this can do that, but it's not encrypted. So it can't be this big. It has to be bigger. Oh, and also these are broken on iPhone screen. Everything. Right? So it can't be this screen, it's gotta be a different screen. It's gotta be this thick. And now the pocket size forward entry device. This fits in no pocket known to man.
Yeah.
Not one. I've not found a pocket that fits. I've checked.
You're just going to storage.
Yeah, nope. But it has to be able to fit to a certain radio. It has to have a certain battery system, and it has to be able to be compatible across different spectrums. It has to be able to speak to this language. And maybe it'll work.
Maybe?
Maybe.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. I had a laser I carried in Iraq that I found out in Iraq, the laser good for one laser shot. I had one battery. That's all I had. That's all they give me. The infantry didn't even know what it was. You got to carry that with you. That's why it's worthless. It's a paperweight. I don't need a laser. I'm really good at what I do. I don't need a laser. I don't need it. It doesn't designate the target. Like you guys say, oh yeah, laser guided. No, this was a laser rangefinder. Golfers have a better one than I have. Promise. But it has to meet certain specifications. It's got to be, withstand the sand, water, whatever. It's got the stuff in it is still actually secret.
Yeah.
Like you can't just look at it like. Somebody wanted me to send me a picture of my last drill. Hey, I want you to send a picture of that laser. Like, what? Can you get this camera to focus in there? No, it's illegal.
Yeah. Good reason not to do
targeting information. You have a secret clearance, right? Oh yeah. Well then you know what you can do. That's called leakage.
Were you surprised with the amount of information that Mary talks about and the amount of access she was given to some of the research labs? Because I think there was a point where I was kind of surprised at how much information that she was able to get from some of these researchers.
Some of the stuff, yes. A lot of the medical stuff, no, because what's great about military research, and a lot of people don't realize, is it starts military because in a lot of ways it's unrestricted, right? As bad as a nuclear bomb is, and believe me, as a guy that called it in, I don't want it. I would rather have the nuclear power though, because I think it's a clean source of energy. Yeah. But you have to get to that. You have to get to that understanding. The only way to do that is understand that it's a devastating power. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just saying, I'm not going to justify, I'm not going to argue the legalese on war and the use of it, but the getting to the good thing is sometimes all right, but then again, the road to hell is always that good attention, so play that what you want.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that leads me into my first turn to talk, because I found myself asking this throughout the book. Because there's a lot of military research and military R&D that ends up finding its way into civilian life. There's plenty of stuff, and I think people probably know examples. You probably think of examples. We get some examples in the book, whether it be like a material or an innovation, technologic, computer. There's a host of them. And so my turn to talk would be to either, if you know of one, I'd love to share. I'd love for you to share, because there's so many that I probably don't know about and you don't know about. But I also wanted to give you guys the question, why do you think military research is given the resources and the freedom to explore some of these questions that other research institutions, NSF, NIH, name your alphabet soup research group, are not given?
You ask me?
Well, so I'm going to turn to them. I'll give you like 5 minutes and then we'll report out. Because it's an interesting question to think about. Why is the military given all this? And maybe not the NIH. And then we'll talk. Thanks.
All right, so you guys are still hot on the live stream.
Center
Yeah.
going listening. I'm like,
To be a fly on the wall, kind of a good
yeah.
time.
I was like,
To not be the one in
yeah,
charge.
that was a great Christmas 2010.
Oh God, that's bad. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild. Jesus.
That's just the
Concerning.
Russians. That's just the Russians.
And she talks about the end of the book. She's talking about the Navy and the sleep problem. What was it? 4 days of sleep with like less than 7 hours is the same as being like up for 48 hours, which I think is the same as being like over the legal limit.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. So we do have to do sleep studies, but it goes two ways, right? The good thing, we want to know how we can make sure we're doing a rest sleep cycle for the people.
Yeah.
The other side of it is on my side is I know when I shoot a loom rounds just to keep them awake. And then I'll shoot an HE round just so they think maybe something's going to happen.
Oh.
I mean, it might not be targeting anything. It's just like, boom.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, so sleep is because they talked about it in the Navy, but
Yeah.
I
We use it as a weapon.
yeah, 100%.
What the United States military is very well versed in doing is creating chaos.
Yeah.
So Russia's great at having chaos.
Yeah.
Like if you look at how their initial invasion went in Ukraine, me being in the military for so long, like they have no existent.
Yeah.
Their small level detail stuff was getting missed. They had breakdowns. They were losing vehicles because it broke.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
I
like
remember seeing that.
yeah, okay, every now and then, but it made the news. Like, okay,
Yeah.
it's not one truck went down. Like
No.
a whole column of motor T trucks just went down, and
Yeah.
that's their job.
Yeah.
You know.
When your job's to move and you're
Yeah.
not moving.
Yeah, and then just the little things, and then you watch them back away and struggle with those little things, and the Ukraine's just swacking them.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, that's because they have no lower level leadership. For things that we'll have somebody my level doing,
Yeah.
they have a general doing, which ties up a general.
Yeah. Well, and I think we see it as like, oh, levels of bureaucracy. Like it's, it's all, but I think as we see in the book too, like there's value and purpose to that you just probably don't see.
There's some of it.
Okay.
But some of it.
That's fair. That's fair. I think a lot of people would agree with you.
But it's still a government agency. Everything has to be tracked. We are accountable to the American people how we spend our money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, with my unit now, like every drill, what do we got to do first? We got to go off this checklist, make sure we check the maintenance of the vehicle, and did that.
Yeah.
This is so stupid. But then when it breaks, you're like, man, I really wish we'd have done that paperwork.
Yeah, I wish we had looked it over a little better. Yeah,
maybe that would have been a good
sense.
idea. So.
All right, so I think we're gonna come back. Yeah, we'll come back here in a second. Yeah, no, it's okay. No, you're good. Don't apologize. All right, so let's come back here and circle back. I'm curious what you all thought about the concept of military R&D, and I think you made a really good point when we kind of went off to do our own thing. Is that yes, everyone gawks at the military budget, and it's like, oh, you're just buying planes, and you're not doing it's just you're buying planes. But in reality, everything in this book, every single aspect and more of this book is included in that R&D budget. Oh, yeah. And so much of that does trickle down to the everyday happenings and the usage, to the soldiers. And so I'm curious what your thoughts thoughts were on the military R&D being so well funded and being given the freedom that other research agencies and government agencies just aren't given. For whatever reason. Maybe it's public support. People will support it if it's got a military label. Not sure. Love to hear. Ooh. Uh-oh.
There's another one there, maybe.
Yeah, there's another one here. Oh, there you go. I hear it. Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Being ahead of the enemy. Yeah, absolutely. There's an intelligence aspect to that obviously we don't know when those dollars are being allocated. I mean, there's the military budget, and then if there's the black box budget, which is all your intelligence agencies, and some of that is R&D that we might not see for our lifetime.
On that, on your point, one of my things, and this actually happened in Indiana, Sweden brought over their howitzer. Ooh, another cannon, right? This is a magazine-fed howitzer. That's actually kind of impressive when you realize a round weighs 100 pounds. How do you have a magazine-fed howitzer? I'm an artilleryman. I wondered that. So I got to see it. So now I asked them, you cannot buy it at IKEA.
Okay, but a Cabela's.
No.
Come on.
I asked them how the instructions were, and they had this weird stick figure with a little squiggly on it. Anyway,
it's like an IKEA fold-out.
Right. But it's actually really ingenious what they did, but they're using the same rounds we're using. So they actually came over to sell it to us. Not that necessarily, the platform itself. And that one gun would actually either A, completely replace one artillery battery, which is 6 guns, in its firing capacity. Or it would plus up 6 guns of battery with this self-propelled magazine-fed howitzer. What's really cool about the whole principle is that we don't necessarily throw all our money at what we want. So to your advantage, to what you're getting at, what the enemy has and what we need to complement it. It's not so much what the enemy has all the time. It is does our strategy work to counter it. So Russia has always outranged our artillery, and I'm back on artillery a lot because that's my bread and butter. They outrange us all the time. We don't care. The reason why is that's not really our strategy. Our strategy is not to outrange them. Ours is to outmove them. To outrange us, they had to be big and cumbersome. The barrel's got to be super long. We are still working on increasing our range. There's extended range cannon artillery that's still being worked up. And it's really like a screw-on into, like one option is a screw-on barrel that extends the barrel out so we get more propellant energy on the round to send it out. Not really what our bread and butter is. Ours is to move so fast and be so hard to track that it doesn't matter if they can range us or not. We'll work inside their range and pinpoint it. So our big push is not what Russia does. Russia will lay waste to 4 kilometers square of space to destroy one unit. We will pick the general. And we do. I can put the round at the window of his apartment. That's what we want. We want that one round to matter, not 500 rounds to matter. Number one, it's more economic. Number two, it's safer, right? So if I only have one round and not waste the 4 grid squares, then that's better because now I'm also not hurting somebody that doesn't need to be hurt. This is always forefront. That was all of Afghanistan for me, was don't hurt somebody that doesn't need to be hurt. They put cash on the barrelhead. They're elected. They get the prize. They didn't. It is my job to safeguard them because that is my job. That's what I'm here for. So we don't do that. It's not just an altruistic reason, although that might be mine. That is so that I don't make more insurgents. I mean, that's just strategy, but it's also we do actually care about where we're at. We would like to leave it eventually.
Yeah.
You know, we'd like to win. I mean, that would be nice.
Yeah. That's an interesting take on the R&D too, and really good insight. Because I think we think of it that way, but that's really good to know. Did anybody else have any thoughts or discussion at your table about like military R&D? Yeah. Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people who not only needed to have a regulatory board form, like you would need in an academic or a commercial study, they already have those networks established in research that they've done on previous projects.
Yeah.
And they have the information, at least partly in them voluntarily signing up to be part of the military forces. I would assume that's a portion of it. And then in addition to that, we were talking about the advantage, in the book it mentioned like the diarrhea study. And like, oh, I have to drive them. And they kind of mentioned like, oh, you don't really have to if you're getting away from doing other stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All of those things kind of make me think that maybe it's just a natural environment that's conducive to some of those more far-reaching developments in research that really
Yeah, well, and we talked about that too in our sidebar, and I'm really glad you brought up informed consent because that is obviously a very important and very rigorous aspect of clinical trials in the commercial and academic space. And to an extent, I mean, they call it signing your life away. And I mean, I guess you're also kind of signing up your body. And,
Yeah.
and you actually shared a really funny story. What was it?
The anthrax shot.
The anthrax shots.
So I originally had the full run of anthrax shots. Then the Supreme
the shocked
Court.
eyes in the room for those of you online.
Then the Supreme Court said, "Hey, you can't make them do that." And then I guess a justice died, and they changed their mind because then no, it was okay because we're in the military and mission critical or whatever. And all of a sudden, we can have the anthrax shot again. But they actually already burned my shot record that said I had anthrax. So guess what I got again? And the third shot burns. It burns. The second time burns again. It's not fun. But that's one, and I didn't have a choice. You had to have the anthrax shot.
Yeah.
I didn't informed consent. I am informed that I'm going to have the anthrax shot today at noon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Consent.
Yeah, well, and it's painted in a different way too, because you're talking about like in a research and in a commercial environment, it's ultimately up to the patient, right? Whether they want to take this experimental drug. Even in phase 1 trials, I mean, you're given a whole host of information. You sign, million forms, and you signed forms at some point that said a lot.
I signed a bunch of forms. I didn't read any.
Yeah. But
close enough.
But in the book, it's a lot of it. You're right. It's military readiness, mission critical. Ergo,
you're going to do it.
Yeah, and so it's a totally different approach. And I work in clinical trials, and so I did think that was very interesting. Well, and then she even said that they'll make up that they have diarrhea. I didn't want to talk too much about diarrhea because I know this is a restaurant.
I knew it was going to come up.
I knew. I was going to ask. But no, the diarrhea studies were fascinating because they were saying, yeah, give them $50, they'll tell you whatever you want for $50. Yeah, sure. I had a bad time last night. Like, what do you want? But no, that was really interesting. And I don't know.
I've actually said that exact quote. I'll tell you whatever you want for $50. I mean, private needs beer.
That's fair. Yeah, and I didn't want to get into the diarrhea studies, but I did think those were interesting. So thank you for bringing that up. And did anyone else have anything they wanted to share? Okay, if not, yeah, go ahead.
We talked about sovereignty.
Yeah, sovereignty.
The national defense budget and the research budgets which I'm assuming to secure and maintain our sovereignty. I don't know if any of the others have the same.
Yeah.
So sovereignty, we're getting into like the legalese of militaries, whatever.
And we don't have to.
Well, this one's a really quick one. The Atlantic and Pacific Ocean does a really good job of that for us. We, at one point in the Cold War, developed the North American Fortress Plan. And that was to say that the United States and Canada would kind of join forces and defend themselves against whatever if it were to come to that. I think Mexico was invited. There's some cultural differences there probably. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Hey.
I wasn't part of the plan. But we acknowledge the fact that we have vast oceans beside us, which really help us. The world's shrinking right now in like the informational age, and we're seeing that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's actually part of the actual military plan, and that is part of the research development now, the electronic warfare, as we call it. So that's your cyber warfare. It covers a signal warfare, covers a wide spectrum of things.
Yeah.
So like Russian meddling or whatever. I'm not getting into the politics or whatever, but just even the idea that it could happen. And EW, Russia's, we acknowledge Russia's kind of got us, well, I mean,
Yeah.
we thought they had us beat. Then they invaded Ukraine and showed their cards. And there's why we fund Ukraine, because we're watching Russia fail at something we thought was simple for them. So we're watching them, just beat their forces against a wall. They'll learn stuff from it, and hopefully, I mean, any human being would, but
Yeah.
they're failing. So it's fun.
Yeah. It's a word to describe it.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch.
So, one of the aspects of R&D that, we see throughout this book, they really focus on different aspects of soldiers' health. And so we see, the diarrhea studies, the GI, we'll call it broadly the GI, gastrointestinal health of, soldiers and active military, and how mission critical that is, and how that goes into food safety and food preparation. I didn't realize how absolutely rigorous those protocols and procedures were for food preparation. And we go into, we learned about the fly studies, which were, that was one I usually read like right after dinner, and I'd say, oh, I'll pick this one up tomorrow. That was tough to read. And then, towards the end, although they were talking about the Navy, we kind of briefly touched on it, how important sleep is. And so I'm curious if you saw, or if you were trained or have gotten additional trainings or have any experience with any of this, with, the importance of GI health or even something like sleep. I mean, was that emphasized to you? Was that something that was taught to you no?
So
I mean, they make it, obviously it's very important, and they show that in the naval studies.
they do. And then they tell you promptly in the book that, stuff's still got to get done. So,
well, yeah, the people on board are saying, yeah, right.
What we learn very quickly in the military is sleep when you can, eat when you're able, and then duck a lot. But it's really important. You got to manage your sleep. But like when I was in Afghanistan, I worked 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 1 year.
Ugh.
Period.
Ugh.
Good day, bad day, don't matter.
Yeah.
Now, you still have to do PT. You still have to, or physical training, for those that didn't catch that. I'm trying to watch my jargon, so if I catch
That's
it,
okay.
wave me out.
I'll hit you.
I still have to do maintenance stuff. Like, that's just me on my work site, like monitoring drone feeds, monitoring the battle space, figuring out what's going on, executing missions, whatever. And then I had to go clean out the Kanza hut because, that computer is obsolete now. Thanks, R&D. And I got replaced it with this computer, which I don't know how to work. And I'm in Afghanistan.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, you're like, oh,
but it
great.
switches now.
Yeah.
We just got it, so that's cool. Just going through all those things, that was the other 4, 5, 8 hour day. And then, see you in the morning.
Yeah.
Or in the night, depending on what shift you had. That stuff still has to get done. So who does it? Eventually somebody's got to do this stuff. I mean, if you look at the recruiting numbers now, they're not great. The Marine Corps is still doing it. Army's not. Navy's not. ASVAB scores, the requirements have gone down.
Oh, yeah.
People are getting in with things that were just absurd. You wouldn't even think about even taking them to MEPS to do it when I was a recruiter. Yeah, I was a recruiter too.
It's okay.
But all that stuff that happens, our work pool is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We're getting less qualified candidates even applying. Those that would apply are, maybe not the best people you want. And with this kind of job, everybody likes to make fun of Marines for being the crayon eaters. My
grandpa was a Marine, so I'm not in that camp.
Well, there you go. I make fun of it.
Yeah.
Mitchell's back there laughing. Typically the Marines, they have a higher qualification standard than any other branch. because we are small. We don't need to be picky. We can be picky.
Yeah, you can be.
We can, take the 50 plus ASVAB scores. I was a 50 plus ASVAB score.
Mhm.
I still wanted to, I came in to the military, just after 9/11. I went in with a purpose.
Yeah.
Maybe we just don't have the purpose anymore. Maybe people all the stuff around us, all the distractions of patriotism are gone.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that research and development, that money is only going to go up when there's less people,
Yeah.
less qualified, and you have to keep them alive longer.
Yeah.
So, it goes both ways. So,
I wonder if you could comment on how do maybe do you feel like you appreciate more what goes into the day to day, like seeing how much how in depth she goes into this book and how much R&D is
Oh, yeah.
happening into understanding the impacts of poor sleep, of diarrhea, of flies, of we haven't even talked about the stinks that military grade smells. I have a younger brother. I know what that is. But the fact that
No, you
there's
don't.
listen.
I promise.
Yeah.
I promise. There's some bad guys out there. So the
Do you
day to
appreciate
day,
it more now?
I've always kind of appreciated it. I wouldn't say I was on the front lines all the time, like on the edge of the razor's
Yeah.
edge of hell or whatever. But I was there enough to know that the little things matter.
Yeah.
Everybody would always. Veterans rarely like being thanked for their service. I mean, it's just awkward.
That's
I
fair.
mean, we appreciate the appreciation, but we just like, oh, it's not really just me. I did this one little thing. That's what we think of what we do. What do you think? What we think about the guy that's studying the fly or the snake?
Yeah.
I don't want his job.
The lady with the stink vials in the
Yeah.
airport? No, I don't want to do
She's
that.
having a great time, and I'm just hard pass.
So hard pass.
I don't want to do that. The DoD civilians that actually come with us or work with us, whatever, you see what they do every day, and most of it is put up with us. That's hard enough, So some of us are just mean, we're just mean people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
God.
met any. Those guys with the funny hats, they just yell at you all the time.
Oh God.
Anyway.
Yeah, I love when in the book she was like, "Oh, that voice in the movie, that's real." She was like, "That's not dramatic."
That's actually R&D. That voice is to save their voice.
What?
And they talk like that, like
Yeah.
a frog in their throat.
Yeah.
It's so that they don't actually get one. It's to save. They don't use their vocal
Are they
cords.
trained to do that?
Yes.
What?
They yell at a bush.
I
promise
did you
you.
do this?
I wasn't a drill
Okay.
instructor, but I watched it happen.
Hold on. So they're practicing on bushes.
Oh yeah, you're not leafy enough. I can't do it. But they scream from their diaphragms.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of like a singing thing.
Yeah.
Marine Corps drill instructors are actually graded on how well they sing cadence because it's part of the tradition. So the left, right, hold on, I'm on the spot here, but like left, right, your left, your left, your left, right. So you can do like Pink Panther.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
stay
God.
graded on that, and if they don't do that, they fail.
Oh my gosh.
That's a bad deal. She's got her hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, feel free to interrupt us, y'all.
Back to talking about the stink stuff.
Oh
Mhm.
God, yeah. Again, people are eating, so I was like, I don't know if I want to bring it up. But go back to the stink because I love it.
Would that affect your skills on the battlefield if you were surrounded by stink?
Oh yeah.
It really
Yeah.
be a distraction?
So it doesn't take much to distract, right? So we typically use this against others. Like
Yeah.
this is crowd control stuff. But
Oh, crowd control.
understanding, oh yeah, we had it. That's fun. Not on real life in training. I didn't do it in real life much. I don't think I did any at all.
No.
But
Well, you can clear a room with stink. It just is it
I could-
military grade.
I mean, we've got brothers in my lodge that
Yeah.
will absolutely.
We've been there.
We're thinking about him right now.
We've been there. That's why I said my little brother. I've met him.
But it doesn't take much to distract, right? All we're trying to do is deny area or move them away from something. If it sinks so bad and I got an easier way to go over there, or at least perceived easier way to go over there, I'm going to go over there. And that might lead them to a machine gun nest. So that's actually part of my job. I do it with, much more prettier effects, explosions.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily need to kill anybody with my bomb, right, or my shell. I just got to discourage them from going there, typically. It's somebody else's job to finish it out, or just distract them away to a retreat would be clearly the
Ideal.
better choice. But
Yeah.
depends on how much gumption they've got.
Yeah, well, and I love the example in the book too when they talk about taking the scratch and sniff technology and putting bread, not an unpleasant, freshly baked bread. Listen, I've been baking since Thanksgiving. My house smells delicious.
Demoralized.
I mean, well, and I wanted to bring up too just the value of morale.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the fact that fresh baked bread is enough. I mean, the smell of fresh bread as a military weapon and morale being so important.
Yeah.
I never really thought
I'll
of that.
give you the greatest military retreat in modern history was the Battle of Chosin Reservoir. My Marine Corps division was completely surrounded in Korea by 100,000 Chinese that didn't used to be a part of the war, but now are. So they didn't have supplies. Okay, so they weren't really eating. They were cold. I mean, it's called the frozen reservoir for a reason. It was cold.
Yeah, that makes sense.
People were freezing to death. If you put a smell of freshly baked bread among them and they couldn't eat it, their mind is now positive mental attitude is what saves you in any situation.
Yeah.
If you're stranded on a desert island, if you think you're getting off that desert island, you'll get off of it eventually. If you think you're going to die there, you will die there tomorrow. You will die. It is guaranteed. You will quit. Your body will shut down. It is science. It is psychology. It is everything you want it to be. It is that. If I make fresh smelling baked bread amongst you and you have no bread whatsoever, there goes a positive mental attitude. Or maybe I spin something up. I can play with it. Human mind, we're still at the basis portion of us, especially when we're an animal.
Yeah.
All right. So if I play on your animal instincts and cause chaos, which America is really good at doing, and I can do that without hurting anybody, I'd rather do that.
Yeah.
But if I do it and I mess you up even more, okay, well, that's the cost of it. So.
Yeah.
Like in protests in the United States, about like bullets.
Mm-hmm.
Like tear gas. Yeah.
Have they ever tried the same?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you're asking
Oh,
if
yeah.
they've used the stink method for
Oh, yeah,
crowd
they actually
dispersion.
still use them in prisons.
Oh, in prison. I
Mhm.
hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, so any way we can get to deny, to repel you in there's escalations of force, right? So the military, civilian side, we start here, military side, we kind of start a little bit over here, maybe a little bit over here, depends how bad they are.
Yeah.
Might go higher.
Yeah. That's that liquid S they talk
yeah,
about
so
all the way up there.
If an example, I didn't have stink bombs or anything like that, but I had this little pin flare. Okay. So if I'm in Iraq and one of the biggest threats we had were vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices. So we called them VBIEDs or VBIEDs. Depends on what day you went and who was teaching the class. If you saw a car driving along your convoy, and it happened to my platoon sergeant where he would veer and then try to blow up the truck. Now, my platoon sergeant's fine. I welded up some stuff. R&D.
R&D, baby.
We saw the Army with these really cool gadgets that extended their turrets up so that they had like bulletproof windshield in it. Well, the Marine Corps, we didn't have that budget, so we had some quarter-inch steel and Humvee windshields. So I welded them up, and it worked too. It saved his life. And I
Hey.
feel pretty good about it. But you can kind of tell generally when it's a vehicle-borne ID. It's a crappy car with new tires. The back axle is kind of squatted a little bit because it's heavy. All right, they got it just enough to get it to where it wants to go, and then that's really all they care about. This one was a BMW,
Oh.
so that's what got my platoon started. Like, it was a BMW. Nobody saw that coming. It was like a really nice car,
Yeah.
but so they do R&D too.
Yeah.
But my tangent. So we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
We don't want them close to our convoy at all. So this a pin flare, and it was the size of an ink pen, but there's a little cartridge that's screwed on the top of it, and you wiggle this little piece over, and then it's a firing pin. You'd shoot it, this little pin flare would come out. They didn't at first. They see that pin flare coming out, no problem. Now I'm not shooting at them. Okay, before the pin flare, if they didn't stop at motion, if they didn't read the sign, and all of them were illiterate, so that wouldn't, can't really get them for not reading the sign, we'd shoot at them. We'd shoot a warning shot. Now, first off, if you know anything about Marines are against warning shots. And that's because of Beirut, Lebanon in '82. They did shoot a warning shot at an embassy they were guarding, and then the truck came through the gate and blew up the embassy. So that was October 27th of '82, I believe. It might have been '83. It was right before I was born. Anyway, so I don't know. But they teach it. But at that point, the Marine Corps outlawed warning shots. Well, we get to Iraq, they start telling us things about warning shots, and we don't do those, and here's why. So they came up with the pin flare. Like, well, you can do this. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they stopped not pulling over for those either because they realized, oh, that's not going to hurt.
Yeah.
So I started aiming into the window a little bit, not to hurt them, but okay, now there's a flare in my car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to deal with that.
Yeah. That'll make me scared.
But again, I'm not trying to hurt anybody.
No, yeah.
But a warning shot, another reason why Marines don't like warning shot is first weapon safety rules treat every weapon as if it was loaded. Never point a weapon at anything you do not intend to shoot. That one.
Yeah.
That one. Because accidents happen. Yeah. Pin flare, they're probably going to be okay. It goes out. It's really low burn.
Yeah.
But a 50 cal round, it doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
It doesn't care what you were doing. It's going through it. So like engine blocks, it'll go through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking about this.
That's
That's
a good one.
Yeah.
Anything we can do to keep it from being a bullet.
Yeah. And you know, I want to kind of close out into our last turn and talk. You know, you brought up IEDs, and she talks about in the book some of the medical and surgical advances in research that's happening for those veterans. But for me, and you see her reflecting too in the book about support for veterans, injured veterans, and veterans coming back. And really the lack of support. I mean, we're learning about research, obviously keeping, you know, soldiers safe, you know, preventatively, but there's also a lot of support and R&D kind of needed on the back end. And as we see, some of that's happening with, you know, like physical injuries. A lot else is really being ignored and seemingly not supported. And she goes into that into the book. And so I wanted to give this turn and talk, maybe as a turn and talk, but maybe like a group reflection on support for veterans, and how do you see, you know, either through this book, like an aspect of veteran support that you saw lacking, or maybe in your personal or, you know, within your circle, an aspect of veteran support that you think could be improved, or that you would want, maybe you felt inspired after reading this book to get involved with, you know, veteran support. But I'd love to give us like 5 minutes to reflect on that at our tables. And then we can come back and we can talk about, you know, support for veterans back who returned back injured, you know, physically or otherwise. So I'd love to give you 5 minutes to reflect. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. and you saw her reflecting on it too as she was writing it, just going, this doesn't feel like enough.
So it's hard to adjust for it, right? So
Yeah.
every war has its own horror,
Yeah.
right? So like I'm going to the VA to be treated for PTSD, and
Yeah.
you know that's a it's always going to be a thing, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it was shell shock or wherever you want to combat fatigue, the understanding is a little bit different. But I think we should. A lot of people stigmatize it, right? So, and
Yeah.
the stigma is kind of lifting in the military, you know.
That's good.
But that's, you know, we understand that it was a risk for a lot of us that went, and so we're very open to, you know, being more forthwith about it. I've been in order to help with that. I've been more open with it with people in my unit. Not everybody, but I talk to them. I'm like, hey, no, I have, like, you guys see me as big hard Marine in the National Guard unit. No, I have problems because of it, and
Absolutely.
the only way you can deal with it is, you know, if this comes up where you guys go to war and I'm no longer here, you need to be the kind of leader that accepts it.
Yeah.
And the part of the R&D that a lot of people don't realize is what the actual unit does, what the actual leader does. They have developed through long, you know, as society has evolved, the leaders in the military have evolved, and that part is always gets missed. Is we're led differently, sometimes better, sometimes worse. But the NCOs, I bring that up because I am one, but is that connection with the individual service member, that the guy that actually has their hand on the back that says, you can do this. It's going to suck. I'll be here when you're done.
Yeah.
And just reminding them that you're not alone.
Yeah.
And we fight together. So that's the biggest part that will help. And then just understanding the preparedness is what alleviates the PTSD. So
Preparedness for
anything. So you can't be prepared for everything, but you can be prepared for anything. So what I mean by that is training. If you go through all this, all that money, most of that money that the defense department has isn't for a new plane. Is so that I can have the adequate training to achieve the objective.
Yeah.
But that's the and go, protect America, but it's also so I can go home, so that my guys can go home, so they are prepared for it. And if we, Ukraine war right now, it has affected me personally.
Yeah.
So I don't get the right training rounds to be able to train my guys correctly because they all get shipped to Ukraine. They are shooting guns from the Indiana National Guard in Ukraine.
I didn't know that.
Like out of my battalion.
Holy shit.
So this thing is, people are like, oh, this just happens on the news. No, it affects us. 60% of the United States artillery is in the National Guards.
60%?
60%.
Jesus.
So when you
no
take that
idea.
away from that, when you're looking at my battalion is short guns, who am I not training?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying we don't need to fight Russians. I'm all about fighting Russians, but let us fight the Russians too, or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we should
No,
go to
no,
war.
no. Yeah, I know.
But we should, when we make those sacrifices, the country does.
Yeah.
Understand that we don't just write a blank check. Like they're borrowing, or those guns may never come back. We had to build new guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
They will owe us back for it. And it's more of an investment.
Yeah.
If Ukraine's happy with us, they join NATO, whatever, they're more likely to be a trade partner. They'll buy more American stuff, buy American, and then where we go. So it all comes back.
Yeah.
It's just how it comes back. It doesn't look the same.
Yeah. No,
people see
fair.
economy, they don't necessarily see economy in worth.
Yeah.
So that's a really a hard thing to understand. You know, when
Well,
you're
how do you
when you're
conceptualize that?
yeah.
Yeah.
when you're trying to fill your refrigerator, and it's harder to do.
Yeah.
But what am I missing? What part of the bigger picture do I not get? And I only have maybe a medium picture. I don't have the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
But I just understand that, you know, Democrat, Republican, whatever. I know that each party is actually trying to do the best thing they think is right for America.
100%.
Uh, some of them have a little bit more messed up way of doing it, but
Yeah.
it that is the system. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, Churchill said it the best. Democracy is the worst kind of government except for all the others.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
But the other part is we're not a democracy. We're a republic.
Yeah.
We are a democratically elected republic, but we're yet a republic.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
yeah. There's
Yeah.
evils in both in
Oh,
everything we do.
yeah.
There's
Oh, yeah.
evil people everywhere.
Oh.
Here, abroad, whatever. Our best thing to do is be kind to each other. Try to keep me out of a job, but understand my job's important. That's it.
So you want to be out of a job?
I mean, who is a in the human race doesn't want peace on earth, especially in this time of year.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, like the best way you get peace is prepare for war, and that's what America has figured out since after World War II and kept it.
Yeah.
Right, wrong, or indifferent. We've had missteps. Everybody's perfect.
Yeah.
We're still a human institution.
Yeah.
But war is part of what we are.
Yeah.
It sucks. Believe me, I've been there. It sucks. And there is
yeah.
no person that's been to war that goes, we should have more of these.
Yeah.
Not without severe mental problems that they probably need to be institutionalized.
Yeah.
But we understand the reality of the world.
Yeah.
You know, World War I is supposed to be a world that ended all wars. Then we had the two. Then we had like a few other big skirmishes.
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch of little ones. We've not been at peace yet.
Yeah. Oh no.
What's funny is but the United States has only declared war 5 times.
You know, where were we? And somebody mentioned that, and
Yeah.
I was
So,
what?
yeah, 5 times. War of 1812, Spanish American or Mexican American, Spanish American, World War I, World War II.
Yeah.
5 times. Civil War isn't declared because it was within ourselves, and by declaring them, they do recognize them. And we weren't a country yet.
Yeah.
In Revolutionary War, and
That
all
doesn't
these
really
other
count.
things really wasn't us. We just did the fighting.
Yeah. That.
Except for like the last ones I was in. We
Yeah.
just didn't declare it because we weren't against the state. We were against an ideology, except for when we were fighting.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a little deep for me. A
Yeah.
little deep cut. That's for the history
Yeah.
teacher back there. It's not for
Yeah.
me.
But that's, I mean, you look at it, but we've really never been at peace.
No. Yeah. I haven't
Ever.
declared war, but not at peace. God.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Limbo.
Yep. It's
Um,
just complicated.
Yeah. So I think we're ready to come back, and then we'll go into Q&A right
Sure.
after this, and then people will probably want to come up afterwards
Yeah.
and talk. So it'll be good. Okay, so I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on veteran support. Support for veterans coming back. If I don't know if there's any aspect of this book maybe that inspired you to get involved or to think about it differently. I really appreciated that in the aspects of the book there where she was, talking very directly about individual veterans that she was writing about. First off, the courage for them to, put my name in there and let's talk about my reconstruction. Let's talk about my injury. That's huge. So I thought not only was it brave of them, to let her write about it and to, talk about their experience so openly. She talks about like the sex rehabilitation for some of the soldiers with like lower limb injuries, and we talk about the penile reconstruction. And you brought up a really good point too that she doesn't really talk about in the book, which is stigma around, obviously veteran injuries and veteran support, but really especially on the mental side. So I'd love to hear if you guys have anything that you talked about. We also have, the stuff that we talked about, but on a little tangent, and that's okay. We do it a lot. Sorry, if you're online, you're probably like, how do you get there? If any of you watch this back, you're probably like, oh my God.
I don't know. This is my first time too.
That's true. That's true. All right. there's a common denominator. It's on this side. Who could it be? But yeah, well, and if you all, you probably maybe have personal experiences with this. I really did think this. She didn't really talk about the stigma. She touched on it, but the stigma around it and fighting that stigma. And you brought up a really good point too in our one-on-one, which was being prepared and knowing going in, yeah, this is probably going to happen.
Mhm.
Do you think that's helpful? Just
Yeah.
going in, just,
That's-
hey, this is the reality.
As a master resiliency trainer in my unit, yes.
Oh,
So,
okay. Resiliency training.
So what we do is I want you to imagine this. You're in a car accident. So leading up to the car accident, you're driving around, everything's fine. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. You're just sitting there bebopping to your latest Christmas song, whatever you're doing, and next thing you know, it's not. Somebody sideswipes you. How do you prepare? Go. You don't. So what do? You panic.
Yeah.
You lock up. That's your body's natural response. You're starting to go into your animal nature. Fight. There's actually 5 things, but it's fight or flight, right? Everybody knows that. But it's also
There's-
posturing.
Oh my God.
There's I'm not going to get into all of it, but there's 5. So all these things you don't get a choice anymore. You now go into extreme. Imagine all your energy is a pendulum and you're holding up back here.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden the accident is you letting go. But there's nothing to stop it at the other end. It just goes. And it doesn't go in one dimension like a pendulum does. It goes wherever it wants. Now decide what to do. Can't do that. Now, as a resiliency trainer, if I prepare for a scenario, like we go through these exhaustive planning circumstances, and then we realize that, no plan really survives first. Anyway, but we went through it, through all the what could go wrongs, and then nothing happens. But the one time we don't plan it, everything happens, right? Everything. The worst possible scenario will happen because you didn't prepare for it. And the only reason why it was the worst possible scenario is you didn't prepare.
Yeah.
So we go through there's different spectrums. You can be, white is completely calm, everything's good, no problem, just spacing out. Black is the other end. But then there's green, there's yellow, there's red. Okay?
Yeah.
Green is, okay, things are okay for now. Yellow is, no, something's going to happen. Red, something is happening, but I'm under control. Black, I could be dead in the gutter and it really make any difference to the situation whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right? So we go through those spectrums.
Yeah.
Everybody does. You do. I do. The only difference is I should be trained a little bit better to deal with it. Because if I shoot the wrong thing, I could start a new war. Right?
Yeah.
So it's called the strategic corporal idea. So the Marine Corps really adopts that as a corporal, which is the 4th level up in the military rank. NCO can make decisions, but really new to it and kind of trying it out. He can make a decision that could get the president's phone to ring.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want that phone to ring.
When you
So-
can't be relying on sheer panic. I have no idea. I was not
Yeah.
trained for this. Yeah.
So the preparedness. So most of our budget really goes into our training. And then a lot of that budget goes into leadership development. So we went into that part of the tangent, and the mental health part is, I suffer from PTSD. I have it. I know it comes from my thing, but the 3 back there have probably experienced some form of me having a thing with it. I'm seeking help for it. I'm just so you know. The pinnacle though is I may look a little more normal than you might think of somebody with it, and I've seen a bunch of really weird stuff. So how is he fine? And it's the preparedness. I know what I do and what it does to things. I know what those are. I know what the risk is going into it, and we have long philosophical discussions about it with our leadership, with our friends, and all that stuff. It's not just playing Xbox on the ship, as some people might think. There's a lot more to it, and if we engage our leadership, and especially our military leadership, to talk about it, especially the lower level, like I'm kind of middle management, so like my level down. If we engage and I talk to my guys, I say, look, I have problems with my experiences. You should know that. You should also know that it's okay.
Yeah.
And that you're not going to do this alone. I will always be here. And then, everybody hears the 22 a day, military suicide 22 a day. It's affected me. It's affected my wife's family. Unrelated to my military experience, but his military experience. I actually had to be the guy to hand the folded flag to the five-year-old daughter because that was the next of kin, and nobody else would do it. That sucked, but you have to be there. The small the sacrifices that the little things, that those little traditions. But me and her husband are Freemasons. The three in the back are members of our lodge. We're really big in our traditions. And most of that stems from that support network of, you know what, I'm not the only one that's ever done this. Somebody can help me through it. And what we need to do as Americans, I think, is understand that, hey, we all did this. We either let the war happen, we didn't do enough to stop it, or we needed them to go. Whatever that situation is, as pacifists as you may be, as warmongers as you may be, we're all a part of that. And if we all understand that we're just the ones that are doing it. I'm not saying I need every pat in the back. No, that's not what we're saying, but just understand that we own it together.
Yeah.
They don't say just the Marines did it. They say Americans did it.
Yeah.
So, unless somebody here is an American, then you're good. We did some stuff, and we need to come together as Americans and say we own that.
Yeah.
So if we come together and we own that, we own responsibilities, support your VA, give advice. If you have power, if you have influence, if you have $1, fit it to those trusted charities. There's 1,001 of them out there. Research them. Make sure the dollar is getting to the actual person. Obviously, I say that with every charity.
Yeah.
But see, do your research and apply your treasury to that, and then that's how we can start. But then also be accepting. You see somebody struggling. I'm not saying be in harm's way, but maybe help in a different way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, and thank you for that. I wanted to make sure we touched on that because I felt that theme through this book, and it's there's the silly, there's there's the stink, there's the flies, there's diarrhea, there's uniforms and thermometers where thermometers shouldn't go. But then there's this veteran
Gotta
support.
get that core heat temperature.
Okay, well, listen. Now, before we get to Q&A, I was going to ask. I want to would you rather smell the stink soup or be in the 104-degree box with the
I'm not going in that
thermometer?
box.
No, on a treadmill with 80 pounds on your back with a particularly placed thermometer.
It's not comfortable at all.
No?
I'm good.
Yeah, you're going stink. Stink
I'm
soup,
go stink.
taking a big whiff with that floral. You mentioned
I
how
grew
good
up
they
on
are
a
at
hog
chaos.
farm. I can deal with the stink. No.
But now it's stevia. That was their chaos. They were like, oh, well, what if we made it floral?
I know. Right?
When she said that, little floral on the top. That's that chaos you were talking about.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Take that.
Keep
stink
you
soup.
guessing.
Yeah, you know what? I'll see if I can get a sample your
Hey,
way. How about
I'm just
that?
saying we captured a known. What one was that? Ed probably will tell me as soon as I'm done and I said the wrong guy. think it was Noriega. We caught him with how we won that. We never fired a shot. We played AC/DC really loud all night.
Better or worse than stink soup? Probably a little better for us.
Yeah. We did that psychological warfare. We're not shy.
Yeah.
AC/DC, Metallica, just like the greatest hits of my lifetime. And this guy apparently didn't like hold up in a church. Well, we can't go into church, but we can play AC/DC.
Oh, God.
And that just seems like the most American thing I've ever heard in my life. So,
That's true. Yeah, if someone grabbed me a Budweiser.
yes.
So with that, I do want to lead us into our Q&A. If anyone wants to ask Matt any questions, or if we want to, is there a part of the book that I didn't talk? There were so many chapters and so
I read
many
it a
things.
month ago. I probably forgot all
No,
of it.
but there was so many good stuff. So many good stuff. Hello. I'm sorry to the English teachers in attendance. I promise. I know. I promise that's called Florida education, all right? You're safe.
Florida man.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Question
in
about hearing
artillery.
loss.
I'm talking so I can hear my voice. Like that's why I'm so close to the microphone.
Yeah.
So
So is there some kind of solution to that they can be open and forthcoming about issues that they're experiencing without the possibility of
So that's tricky, right? So when we talk about particularly hearing loss, and artillery, it's expected, so they're cool with me not being able to hear real good. And that's true. You ask any of them, if I'm not looking at you, there's a good chance I didn't hear you. What? All right.
Yeah.
So, but like special operators, the nature of their mission. It goes from super quiet where they have to hear everything to super loud if things went wrong. Okay. So now it goes mission dependent, right? Yeah. This is all they know. They love that prestige of being a special operator. And they fought to get there. Imagine what they'll do to keep it once they've learned all this stuff.
Yeah, going through
all the
training just
stuff.
to be told, like,
you watch Rambo, it's crazy. I'm not a special operator by any means, but I'm very proud of my job, right? I mean, that's why we principally talked about artillery.
Yeah.
It's the king of battle. It's the greatest branch. Anyway.
Okay.
So, but the pride that goes into the tradition that goes into it, that kind of a little bit of macho there, right? But and nobody wants to say I got fired because I went deaf.
Yeah.
I'm like every time I go to the hearing booth and listen for them beeps they say they were there, it's nerve wracking because you're in this. Okay, funny story.
Oh, God.
Remember the stink bomb thing?
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, that room is airtight. And they hear you. I mean, and they can't get out. You have to finish the test. I was not the favorite guy that day. Anyway, but, it's nerve wracking because you're in there with like 6 other dudes or dudettes, and they're shuffling, and you're like, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And you don't know because they didn't tell you. Good job. So
There's no like awesome.
There's like Mickey Mouse is in there going, good job, buddy. No, nothing. So you just get out there like, yeah, you're deaf. Like, no kidding.
Oh, God.
There's nothing to do. You can't combat it that way. And then again, is it worth risking not only their life over their hearing, but the whole team and the whole mission's life? The
Yeah.
special operator, when they do something, it is so critical. Navy SEALs, you know how you can tell they're really a Navy SEAL?
Oh.
You can't, 'cause they don't talk about it. Fact, their names are classified. Well, I was a Navy SEAL. Okay, buddy.
Yeah.
You're like the 600th of the 40 guys that were in the Navy
Yeah.
SEAls in Vietnam I have met today.
Oh God.
Maybe not. Captain Crunch.
Oh God.
So, but there's like a lot of Marines, so you can believe me.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, but the ones that these guys are so secret, they know how to get around this stuff, and that's kind of the crying shame of it. Their occupation, there's other occupations they can do, they just don't want to do them.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to do them either. But that's the fact.
Yeah.
They don't want to go back to the traditional unit. They don't want to be a paper pusher. They don't want to go up to the COC. They want to go what we call being kinetic, kicking in doors. They want to be the snatcher, saves the guy. They want to be that hero, that knight in
Yeah.
shining armor that they've always dreamed about being.
Yeah.
The toxic masculine, which
Yeah.
is pointed in a good direction.
Yeah. They want to be played by Tom Cruise at some point.
Hell yeah. I want to be played by Tom Cruise. He's going to dye his hair blonde, but we're going to make this happen. Everybody vote for this.
But yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that
But yeah,
question.
it's rough because there's things that happen to me. I'm like, is this going to screw me up? Is this going to screw me over? Is this going to ruin my retirement? Not anymore. I've hit 20 years, but like
Yeah.
going up to it, I put in this much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like last year, if something happened last year, like holding on for dear life, maybe I can float it out. I'm just trying to get a National Guard pension, which is nowhere near an active duty pension anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good point. And thank you for bringing up that vignette of the book. Cause I did think that was really interesting hearing how many people, I just tell them I can. I think I can hear it. I just, yeah, especially the special operators. And only one, I will point out, they were willing to talk about hearing loss, not willing to talk about their diarrhea. Only one of them. After he found out they weren't the FBI.
They all had
Or the
it.
CIA. I don't know. He freely was talking about how many pairs of pants he ruined.
So a lot of people don't know
God bless
this.
him. The bravest.
So I want you to think about this. All right.
Oh, okay.
I want you to
hold
think
on.
about this. They talked about the special operators. They didn't specifically talk about snipers who can't move.
Well, they mentioned them in the uniforms, with the uniforms.
Yeah,
but
a little
that
bit.
was about it.
But they can't move. Right? They had to completely still, and they may wait a long time for their target to show up, and they're looking for one special someone for their special present. So that could be a few days without moving. Now, I don't know how long it takes you, but like it doesn't take me very many hours before I need to stand up and go pee.
Yeah.
Or, maybe once a day I, go number 2 or
Yeah.
something.
If we're healthy, for all
Yeah.
the GI doctors listening.
That they're not any different, but they can't move. So what do? Right in their pants, yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have to,
Yeah. No.
because they're usually a lot of times the only one there. The most famous Marine sniper is Carlos Hathcock, known as White Feather. I'm not going to talk about his movements, but one movement where he was attacking one Vietnamese general. And he was known throughout Vietnam as White Feather because he wore a little white feather in his hat. He's a little Arkansas boy. And he got so close to the enemy that they actually stepped on him. The guy he was supposed to shoot stepped on him. He didn't move. He waited because his target wasn't alone. So he waited till they were about half a mile down the road, and he turned around and shot him. He is the one where the term hathcocking comes from, which is where a sniper shoots another sniper through their scope. He's that guy.
Wow.
He just saw the glint of snipers were hunting each other. He just saw the glint of his scope. He shot the glint and shot exactly the glint
Wow.
from about a half mile. It was about 880 yards, which isn't, you wouldn't think very far,
No.
but when you
I
can't
wouldn't
see
walk it.
anything,
Yeah.
it's pretty far. In the jungle, all the I think Ukraine just beat Canada in the longest sniper shoot, which is just over a mile.
Oh my God.
I think they're at a mile and a half now. It might be up to 2.
Half?
Yeah.
Ooh.
And all the stuff I do with artillery, they're doing with a round that big.
That's crazy.
Physics, the rotation of the earth, Coriolis effect, affecting this one round.
Yeah.
As if you're shooting east to west, if you shoot straight and you're just over 500 yards, your round drops. No, it goes up. Round rises because the earth is coming up that way. If you shoot the other way, the round drops because it's going away.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you had to know that. That's why all rifle ranges on military bases face north and south.
Huh.
Because they're graded. They don't want that to be it's because, Cordialis that.
They don't want
That's
that
why I
kid.
didn't get promoted.
They don't want that kid with the 45 on their
Right.
ASVAB complaining, trying to bring that up.
No, we're talking about the guy with 20. Well, it's going to the northeast. Okay,
Yeah.
buddy.
Oh, gosh, I haven't heard the ASVAB in almost. For those of you not familiar, could you explain what the ASVAB? I had to
Sure.
take the ASVAB in high school. I
Armed
still get
Services
calls from recruiters.
Vocational Aptitude Battery being a test. So ASVAB battery test.
Okay.
It's like saying test.
It's like a written
twice.
test.
Yeah. Well,
got
it's
Well,
multiple choice.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
There's like
I
5
took mine at
sections.
3:00 in the morning in St. Louis, Missouri,
Oh my God.
and I scored a 63, and I fell asleep in it.
Oh wow.
So I probably would have been a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God.
because I'm brilliant.
Yeah.
So you take this test, and it's general questions, and some of them are weird, like, but did this fit in this hole or whatever? I'm like, maybe,
Yeah.
sure. And then it tells you what you'll be good at in
Yeah.
what career field.
Oh, what they think you'll be good at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine
So
were weird.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So like mine was high mechanical, which makes sense because I'm a mechanic.
I tanked mechanical.
Yeah.
Actually, absolutely tanked.
Yeah, I did pretty good. That
All the
was my
rednecks
highest
in
one.
class though did real good.
My GT score, which is your general technical, how well you would know things, is like a 113, something like that.
Yeah.
How well you could learn.
Yeah.
Which is pretty high. That you had to have, for my job, you had to have a high GT score.
Hmm.
You had to, because when are you going to know that in the civilian world? How do you shoot that over there? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not a rifle.
It's not
so-
happening in arts class.
Yeah, right. So, all this stuff gets applied and they figure, okay, you'll probably be okay at this. And it's kind of okay, so successful sometimes.
Yeah.
But it gives us a rough idea where
Yeah.
to place people. As a recruiter, that's what we base, what package we would offer potential recruits.
Yeah. I just wanted to explain that because I think we've mentioned that now twice. And I was like, I don't know if everyone, I know I had to take it. I don't think everyone has to take it though. So, with that, thank you all for your questions and thank you all, for coming and reading the book and engaging with us in what I thought was very, was kind of, but she approaches it with such a comedic slant. And so I really appreciate you having your real world experience to kind of complement what we learned about in the book. And so thank you all for coming. Before we head out, again, thank you to Indiana Sciences, Indiana Humanities, our public libraries for helping make this possible. And please come join us in January of 2020. Next year, when I don't have our book list out yet, but please keep up with our Instagram or Facebook or go on to, if you literally Google Books, Booze, Brains, Indiana Humanities, we'll have the webpage up soon. And maybe we'll have it so you can request some goodies for Christmas. I just requested a Kindle so that I didn't have to do this because I keep buying physical books and I'm tired of it. My library shelf is bending. And so with that, thank you so much and hope to see you guys soon. Thanks.
Hey,
And thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much,
no
really.
problem. Have a good time.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing your experience and being vulnerable with us.
Sure.
And Yeah, this is recorded. It's on Facebook. It's on Twitch. I don't know if anyone ever asks, like, have you ever done any outreach? And be like, yeah, I did this thing.
Yeah. Here,
Um,
boop, boop. I'm on a video.
Pretty much. You'd be shocked how many people put that like on their resume.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, look, I do outreach and education and stuff. You
Yeah.
listen on there. I have not thought about the ASVAB. I still get calls from Air Force recruiters. Still. I took it 10 years ago.
Right.
I was like, hey, probably not good anymore.
My dad spent 20 years in the field artillery.
All right. Yeah.
But he
Red
never
leg.
ever saw into combat. He was when he went to SIL on 42 for officer basic course.